The alarm buzzed at exactly 5:30 in the morning, but Lisa Morgan was already awake. She always woke up before the alarm. It was a habit that had kept her alive during her years at the Galactic Defense Academy. She rolled out of her narrow bed and looked at the massive form curled up on the floor beside her. Storm opened one golden eye and looked at her. The Shadowmane was huge, even by the standards of his species. His dark fur seemed to absorb the dim light from the room's single window. Most people were afraid when they first saw Storm. He was the size of a grizzly bear, with claws that could cut through steel and teeth that could crush bones. But Lisa had never been afraid of him. "Morning, big guy," she whispered. Storm stretched, his claws clicking on the metal floor. He made a soft rumbling sound deep in his chest. It was his way of saying good morning back to her. Lisa had learned to understand all of Storm's sounds during their 3 years together. Lisa walked to the small kitchen area in her room. The academy had given her special permission to have a larger room because of Storm. Most cadets shared rooms with other humans, but Storm needed space. Lisa didn't mind. She had always preferred quiet anyway. She started making her coffee. It was a ritual she never skipped. The water had to be exactly the right temperature. The coffee beans had to be ground fresh. She had brought the beans from Earth, and they were getting expensive to replace. But good coffee was worth the cost. Storm padded over to sit beside her. He was so big that his head reached her shoulder even when he was sitting. Lisa scratched behind his ears while she waited for the coffee to brew. Storm closed his eyes and made that rumbling sound again. "Today's the big day," Lisa said quietly. "Final assessment," Storm's ears twitched. He understood more human words than most people realized. Dr. Helen Carter, the Academy's xenobiologist, said that Shadowmanes were much smarter than anyone had first thought. They just showed their intelligence in different ways than humans did. Lisa poured her coffee into her favorite mug. It was plain white ceramic, nothing fancy. She had learned that simple things worked best. Fancy equipment broke when you needed it most. Simple things lasted. She sat in her chair by the window and sipped her coffee. Storm lay down beside her, his big head resting on her feet. Outside, other cadets were starting their morning runs. Lisa could see them jogging past her window in their bright exercise uniforms. Most of the other human cadets thought Lisa was strange. They used high-tech weapons and armor for their training. They practiced with laser rifles and energy shields. Lisa had learned to use those things too, but she preferred working with Storm. The other cadets didn't understand the partnership between human and Shadowmane. "They think we're primitive," Lisa said, taking another sip of coffee. "What do you think, Storm?" Storm made a soft huffing sound that Lisa knew meant he was amused. He didn't care what other people thought. Neither did Lisa most of the time. At exactly 6 o'clock, there was a knock on her door. Lisa knew who it was before she opened it. Alex Rivera stood in the hallway, already dressed in his training uniform. Alex was her best friend at the academy, and one of the few people who understood her partnership with Storm. "Ready for today?" Alex asked, stepping into the room. Storm lifted his head to acknowledge Alex, then put it back down on Lisa's feet. "As ready as we can be," Lisa said. "You nervous?" Alex laughed. "Me, nervous? Never." But Lisa could see the worry in his eyes. The final assessment was important. It determined their assignments after graduation. Everyone wanted to pass. "What do you know about the test?" Lisa asked. "Combat simulation," Alex said. "Commander Sullivan is running it. Word is that it's going to be tough this year. They've got some new alien cadets who are eager to prove themselves." Lisa nodded. She had heard the rumors too. A group of Kethvar cadets had arrived at the academy 6 months ago. The Kethvar were natural predators from a high-gravity world. They were strong, fast, and aggressive. They had made it clear that they thought humans were weak. "The Kethvar have been talking," Alex continued. "They say humans only survive because of technology. They think we're cowards who hide behind machines." Storm raised his head and looked at Alex. His golden eyes seemed to glow in the morning light. Alex reached out carefully and patted Storm's massive shoulder. "What do you think, Storm? Are humans cowards?" Storm made a sound that was almost like a laugh. Lisa smiled and finished her coffee. At 7 o'clock, Lisa and Alex walked to the main training building. Storm padded silently beside them. Other cadets stared as they passed. Some of the alien students had never seen a Shadowmane before. Storm ignored them all. The briefing room was full when they arrived. Commander Jake Sullivan stood at the front of the room. He was a veteran of the Zephyr Wars, and his face showed the scars from those battles. He was tough but fair, and all the cadets respected him. "Today is your final combat assessment," Commander Sullivan announced. His voice carried easily through the room. "You will be tested on everything you have learned during your time at the Academy. Strategy, tactics, combat skills, and teamwork." Lisa listened carefully while she sipped coffee from a travel mug she had brought with her. Storm lay beside her chair, seemingly asleep but actually alert to everything around him. "The test will take place in the danger room," Commander Sullivan continued. "Full holographic simulation with real consequences. The safety systems will prevent serious injury, but you will feel pain if you make mistakes." A Kethvar cadet named Zexthul raised his hand. He was larger than most of his species, with dark red scales and sharp teeth. "What about the human with the pet?" he asked, pointing at Lisa. "Does the animal count as equipment?" Several alien cadets laughed. Lisa continued drinking her coffee and didn't react. Storm's eyes opened, but he didn't move. Commander Sullivan's expression grew cold. Cadet Morgan's partnership with Storm is recognized by Academy regulations. They function as a single unit. "How is that fair?" another Kethvar asked. "She gets extra help." "The Kethvar work in pack units," Commander Sullivan replied. "Should we separate you from your teammates?" The alien cadets went quiet. Lisa hid her smile behind her coffee mug. Commander Sullivan looked directly at Lisa. "Cadet Morgan, you will be facing a team of 4 Kethvar cadets in today's assessment." Lisa nodded calmly. 4 against 1. The odds were not good by normal standards. But Lisa and Storm had never been normal. "Assessment begins in 1 hour," Commander Sullivan said. "Prepare yourselves." As the cadets filed out of the briefing room, the 4 Kethvar surrounded Lisa. Zexthul leaned down close to her. "We will show everyone how weak humans really are," he hissed. Lisa looked up at him and smiled. "Good luck with that," she said quietly. Storm opened his golden eyes and looked at the aliens. He didn't growl or show his teeth. He just looked at them. But something in that look made all 4 Kethvar step back. Lisa finished her coffee and stood up. Today was going to be interesting. The Danger Room was the most advanced training facility in the galaxy. Its walls could create any environment using holographic projectors and force fields. The room could simulate anything from the ice caves of Pluto to the burning deserts of Mercury. Today it had been programmed to look like a dense jungle. Lisa stood at the entrance and studied the terrain. Thick trees rose up toward a canopy that blocked most of the artificial sunlight. Vines hung down like green curtains. The air was warm and humid, and it smelled like growing plants and damp earth. It was perfect hunting ground for a shadow mane. Storm sniffed the air beside her. His nostrils flared as he took in all the scents. Even though this was just a simulation, the holographic system could create smells that seemed completely real. Storm's enhanced senses would give them a big advantage in this environment. "Remember," Lisa said quietly, "this isn't real combat, but the safety systems only prevent death. Everything else will hurt just as much as the real thing." Storm made a low rumbling sound that meant he understood. Dr. Helen Carter approached them. She was a small woman with gray hair and kind eyes. She had been the one to help Lisa bond with Storm when she first arrived at the Academy. Most humans couldn't form the telepathic link that was needed to work with a shadow mane. Lisa had been different. "How are you feeling?" Dr. Carter asked. "Ready," Lisa said simply. She slung her small pack over her shoulder. Inside was her portable coffee brewing kit and a few other simple supplies. She didn't carry weapons. Storm was her weapon. "The Kethvar are confident," Dr. Carter said. "Maybe too confident. Their species values direct confrontation. They expect you to fight them the same way they fight each other." Lisa smiled. "That would be stupid." "Exactly." Dr. Carter patted Storm on his massive shoulder. "Shadow manes are ambush predators. They're patient. They wait for the right moment. Like their human partners," Lisa said. Through the observation windows above the danger room, Lisa could see other cadets and instructors gathering to watch. Alex Rivera waved at her from the viewing area. Even some of the Academy's senior staff had come to watch. A human cadet facing 4 Kethvar was unusual enough to draw attention. Commander Sullivan's voice echoed through the room from speakers in the ceiling. "Cadet Morgan, take your starting position. The simulation will begin in 5 minutes." Lisa walked into the jungle. The holographic trees felt solid under her hands. The leaves rustled realistically when Storm brushed against them. The Academy's technology was amazing, but Lisa tried not to think about how it worked. She preferred to focus on simple things. She found a small clearing about 50 meters from the entrance. It was surrounded by thick trees and heavy undergrowth. To most people, it would look like a trap. Anyone sitting in the middle would be exposed to attack from all directions. But Lisa had learned to think differently during her years with Storm. She unpacked her coffee kit and started setting it up on a flat rock. The water heating unit was small but efficient. She measured out coffee beans and put them in her hand grinder. The familiar routine calmed her nerves. Storm disappeared into the jungle around the clearing. One moment he was there and the next he was gone. His dark fur and natural stealth abilities made him nearly invisible in the shadows between the trees. Lisa couldn't see him anymore, but she could feel his presence through their mental link. The 4 HFY cadets entered the simulation from the opposite side of the room. Lisa couldn't see them yet, but Storm's senses were much better than human eyes. Through their connection, she knew exactly where they were and what they were doing. Zexthal was leading the group. He was the biggest and strongest, and the other 3 followed his commands. Morgan was fast and liked to climb trees. Feltris was smart and careful. Kilneth was young and eager to prove himself. Storm had been watching them during training for months, learning their habits and weaknesses. Lisa ground her coffee beans slowly and listened to the jungle sounds around her. The HFY were trying to move quietly, but they were used to hunting on their own world. They didn't understand how sound carried differently in Earth-type forests. Through Storm's eyes, Lisa watched the 4 aliens spread out to surround her clearing. They thought they were being clever. They believed they had found a foolish human sitting alone and defenseless. They had no idea that Storm was watching them from the shadows. Lisa poured hot water over her ground coffee and waited for it to brew. The smell drifted through the clearing, mixing with the jungle scents. She had chosen this particular coffee blend because it had a strong aroma. She wanted the HFY to know exactly where she was. Commander Sullivan's voice announced the start of the assessment. Simulation active. All safety protocols engaged. Begin. Lisa lifted her coffee cup and took a small sip. It was perfect. Not too hot, not too bitter. She had gotten the brewing time exactly right. The HFY were moving into their final positions. Zexthal was coming from the north side of the clearing. Morgan was in the trees to the east. Veltress approached from the south, moving carefully through the thick undergrowth. Kilneth was coming from the west, trying to stay hidden behind the larger trees. They thought they had her surrounded. They thought she was trapped. Lisa took another sip of coffee and almost smiled. Through the mental link, she felt Storm's excitement. He loved to hunt, especially when the prey thought they were the hunters. His heartbeat was slow and steady. His muscles were relaxed but ready to explode into action. He was positioned where he could reach any of the 4 HFY within seconds. Lisa closed her eyes and felt the jungle around her through Storm's enhanced senses. She could hear the aliens breathing. She could smell their excitement and confidence. She could feel the vibrations of their footsteps through the ground. In the observation area above, she knew that people were watching and wondering what she was doing. Some probably thought she had frozen with fear. Others might think she was crazy to sit so calmly while 4 predators crept toward her. But Lisa knew something they didn't understand. Humans were predators too. They just hunted differently. She opened her eyes and looked around the clearing. To anyone watching, she appeared completely unaware of the danger closing in on her. She sipped her coffee and seemed to enjoy the peaceful morning in the jungle. The HFY were almost ready to attack. Lisa could feel their tension building. They wanted to leap out and show everyone how superior they were. They wanted to prove that humans were weak prey animals. Lisa set her coffee cup down on the rock beside her and stretched. She rolled her shoulders and cracked her knuckles. Then she picked up the cup again and took another drink. Through Storm's senses, she felt the moment when the HFY decided to attack. Zexthal gave a silent hand signal to the others. They tensed their muscles and prepared to leap. Lisa took one more sip of coffee and waited. The HFY had no idea that they were the ones who had walked into a trap. They thought they were about to ambush a helpless human. Instead, they were about to learn why humans and Shadowmanes made such a deadly team. Lisa smiled and continued drinking her coffee. The real hunt was about to begin. Zexthal gave the signal. All 4 HFY exploded from their hiding spots at the same moment. They moved with the deadly grace of born predators, their powerful legs launching them through the air toward Lisa's position in the center of the clearing. Lisa didn't even look up from her coffee. Morgan came from above, dropping from a tree branch with his claws extended. Zexthul charged from the north, his massive form crashing through the undergrowth. Veltris approached low and fast from the south. Kilneth bounded toward her from the west, eager to be the first to reach their target. They were all airborne when Storm struck. The Shadowmane appeared as if he had materialized from thin air. 1 second, the space between the trees was empty. The next, Storm's massive form slammed into Morgan in mid-leap. The impact sent both creatures tumbling, but Storm was ready for it. He rolled with the collision and came up on his feet. Morgan hit a tree trunk hard enough to crack the bark. The safety systems activated immediately. Red lights flashed around Morgan as the simulation determined that he had taken what would be fatal damage in real combat. He vanished from the exercise, transported to a safe waiting area. The other 3 Kethvar tried to adjust their attacks, but they were already committed to their leaps. Storm moved like liquid shadow between them. His dark fur seemed to bend light around him, making it hard to track his exact position. Zexthul landed where Lisa had been sitting, but she had rolled away at the last second. His claws scraped across the rock where her coffee cup had been moments before. He spun around, searching for his target. Storm hit him from the side. The Shadowmane's shoulder struck Zexthul in the ribs with the force of a moving vehicle. The Kethvar leader flew backward and crashed into a cluster of thick vines. He tried to get up, but Storm was already moving toward his next target. Veltris had seen what happened to the others. He tried to retreat, backing away from the clearing while keeping his eyes on Storm. But the Shadowmane had planned for this too. Storm herded him like a sheepdog guiding livestock, cutting off his escape routes and forcing him back toward the center of the fight. Kilneth was the youngest and fastest of the group. He tried to use his speed to confuse Storm, darting back and forth between the trees. But Storm had been hunting in forests since he was a cub. He knew how to read movement patterns and predict where his prey would go next. Lisa stood up and brushed dirt off her pants. She picked up her coffee cup, which had somehow survived the chaos. There was still coffee in it. She took a sip and watched Storm work. The mental link between them hummed with shared awareness. Lisa didn't need to give Storm commands. He knew what she was thinking, and she knew what he was planning. They moved together like 2 parts of the same mind. Kilneth made the mistake of trying to leap over Storm to reach Lisa directly. The young Kethvar probably thought the human was the weak link in the partnership. He was wrong. Storm caught Kilneth in midair with one massive paw. The Shadowmane's claws wrapped around the alien's torso and slammed him into the ground. The safety systems flashed red again. Kilneth disappeared from the simulation. Now only Zexthul and Veltris remained. Zexthul had recovered from Storm's first attack. His ribs were probably cracked, but Kethvar were tough. He circled around the clearing looking for an opening. His red scales were darker now, a sign that his predatory instincts were fully engaged. Veltris stayed low, moving carefully through the undergrowth. He was the smartest of the group, and he had realized that this fight was not going the way they had planned. He was looking for a way to escape and regroup. Lisa took another sip of coffee and walked to a different spot in the clearing. She moved calmly as if she were taking a stroll in a park. Storm shadowed her movements, staying between her and the remaining Kethvar. "This is impossible," Zexthul snarled. "You're just sitting there drinking that poison liquid while your beast does all the work." Lisa looked at him over the rim of her coffee cup. "That's the point," she said quietly. Zexthul didn't understand. None of the Kethvar understood. They thought combat was about being the strongest or the fastest. They believed that the best fighter was the one who could overpower their enemies through direct force. Humans had learned different lessons during their evolution. They had been prey animals once, hunted by bigger and stronger predators. They had survived by being smarter, not stronger. They had learned to use tools and work together and think ahead. Storm was Lisa's tool, but she was also his. They made each other stronger. Veltris tried to sneak around to Lisa's blind side, but Lisa had no blind sides when Storm was with her. The Shadowmane's senses covered every direction. Through their mental link, Lisa knew exactly where Veltris was and what he was trying to do. She didn't even turn around. She just shifted her weight slightly to her left foot. Storm understood. He melted into the shadows and circled around behind Veltris. The Kethvar thought he was being clever. But he was actually walking into another trap. When Storm struck this time, it was with surgical precision. He grabbed Veltras from behind and lifted him off the ground. The alien struggled, but Storm's grip was unbreakable. The safety systems activated and Veltras vanished. Zexthul was alone now. He stood in the middle of the clearing, breathing hard. His confidence was gone. For the first time in his life, he was facing something he didn't understand. How? He demanded. How are you doing this? Lisa finished her coffee and set the empty cup on the rock. You want to know the secret? Zexthul nodded. Patience, Lisa said. You rushed in without thinking. You assumed I was weak because I look small and soft. You never considered that I might be exactly where I wanted to be. She walked toward him. Storm emerged from the shadows and padded beside her. Humans don't win fights by being the strongest, Lisa continued. We win by being smarter, by planning ahead, by working together. Zexthul backed away from them. This isn't fair. It's 4 against 1, but you have that monster helping you. Storm isn't helping me, Lisa said. We're helping each other. That's what partnership means. She stopped walking and looked at Zexthul with calm eyes. Do you want to surrender or do you want Storm to finish this? Zexthul looked at Storm. The Shadowmane's golden eyes stared back at him without blinking. There was no anger there, no hatred. Just the patient gaze of a predator who knew he had already won. The HFY cadet's shoulders sagged. I surrender. The simulation ended. The jungle faded away, replaced by the gray walls of the danger room. Commander Sullivan's voice echoed from the speakers. Assessment complete. Victory to Cadet Morgan. Lisa picked up her empty coffee cup and packed her brewing kit back into her bag. The whole fight had lasted less than 6 minutes. In the observation area above, she could see the other cadets staring down at her in amazement. Some of them looked frightened. Others looked impressed. A few looked like they were reconsidering everything they thought they knew about humans. Storm sat beside her and made his soft rumbling sound. Lisa scratched behind his ears. Good job, big guy, she said. Now let's go get some real coffee. All that waiting made me thirsty. The medical bay was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitoring equipment. The 4 HFY cadets lay on medical beds, their red scales looking pale under the bright lights. Dr. Carter moved between them, checking their injuries with a portable scanner. How are they? Lisa asked as she entered the medical bay. Storm padded silently beside her, his claws clicking softly on the metal floor. They'll be fine, Dr. Carter said without looking up from her scanner. Morgan has 3 cracked ribs and a mild concussion. Veltras has bruised muscles and some scratches. Kilnith has a dislocated shoulder. Zexthul got off the lightest with just some bruising. Lisa nodded. The safety systems in the danger room were designed to prevent serious injury, but they couldn't eliminate all pain. The HFY had learned what real combat felt like. They're asking to see you, Dr. Carter added. Lisa was surprised. Me? Why? Maybe you should ask them. Lisa walked to Zexthul's bed. The big HFY was sitting up, holding his ribs with one hand. When he saw her, his expression was complicated. There was respect there, but also confusion. I don't understand, Zexthul said quietly. We studied humans before we came here. Our instructors told us you were weak. They said you only survived because of your technology. Your instructors were wrong about some things, Lisa said, but not about others. What do you mean? Lisa sat down in a chair beside his bed. Storm lay down on the floor, his big head resting on his paws. Humans are weak compared to HFY. You're stronger and faster than us. In a direct fight, you would win every time. Zexthul frowned. Then how did you defeat 4 of us? Because I didn't fight you directly, Lisa explained. I use Storm and I use strategy. Humans learned a long time ago that we don't have to be the strongest to win. We just have to be smarter. From the next bed, Morgan spoke up. But that's cheating. Combat should be about individual strength and skill. Lisa shook her head. Says who? On my planet, humans survived because we learned to work together. We made tools. We planned ahead. We adapted to situations instead of just using brute force. That sounds cowardly, Kilnith said from across the room. Maybe, Lisa admitted, but cowards who live are better than heroes who die. Dr. Carter had finished her scans and was putting away her equipment. The assessment recording is being analyzed by the Academy staff, she told Lisa. Commander Sullivan wants to see you in his office. Lisa stood up. Are you sure you're all okay? she asked the Kethvar. We're fine, Zexthul said, but I have one more question. What? How long have you been planning that ambush? Lisa smiled. 3 years. Ever since I first saw how Kethvar fight in training. I knew that someday I might face your species in combat, so Storm and I practiced for it. 3 years? Veltris sat up in his bed, wincing from his bruised muscles. You spent 3 years preparing for one fight? I spent 3 years preparing for every possible fight, Lisa corrected. The one with you just happened to be today. She left the medical bay and walked through the academy corridors toward Commander Sullivan's office. Other cadets stared at her as she passed. Word of her victory had spread quickly through the academy. Some of the alien students looked at her with new respect. Others seemed afraid. Alex Rivera caught up with her near the main administration building. Lisa, that was incredible. The whole academy is talking about what you did. It wasn't that special, Lisa said. Storm did most of the work. Are you kidding? I watched the replay. You never even stood up until it was almost over. You just sat there drinking coffee like nothing was happening. Lisa shrugged. Getting excited doesn't help in combat. It just makes you make mistakes. They reached Commander Sullivan's office. Alex wished her luck and headed back to his own classes. Lisa knocked on the door. Come in, Commander Sullivan called. His office was simple and functional, like the man himself. The walls were covered with star charts and tactical displays. His desk was neat and organized. He gestured for Lisa to sit in the chair across from him. Interesting assessment today, he said. Yes, sir. I've been reviewing the recordings. The tactical analysis is fascinating. He activated a holographic display above his desk. You identified the Kethvar ambush positions within 30 seconds of entering the simulation. Lisa watched the replay of herself entering the danger room. From above, it was easy to see how Storm had immediately begun tracking the alien cadets through the jungle. The Kethvar think they're natural hunters, Commander Sullivan continued, but they're used to hunting prey that runs away. They don't know how to deal with prey that sets its own trap. Storm is the real hunter, Lisa said. I just help him coordinate. Don't sell yourself short. Cadet. The bond between human and Shadowmane is rare. Dr. Carter tells me that only about 1 in 10,000 humans can form the telepathic link needed for true partnership. Lisa nodded. She had been lucky to find Storm. Or maybe Storm had been lucky to find her. Either way, they worked well together. The Academy has received several requests, Commander Sullivan said. Other military organizations want to study your partnership. They want to understand how human Shadowmane teams could be used in real combat situations. What kind of requests? The Galactic Defense Force is interested in creating specialized units. Small teams of humans and Shadowmanes for reconnaissance and special operations. He leaned back in his chair. But that's for later. Right now I have a more immediate concern. Sir, your performance today was exceptional, but it's also created some problems. Several alien cadets are demanding to withdraw from the Academy. They say it's unfair for humans to use alien partners while they have to fight alone. Lisa frowned. What do you think? I think they're missing the point, Commander Sullivan said. Combat isn't about fairness. It's about survival and completing the mission. If they can't adapt to unexpected situations, they don't belong in the Defense Force. He stood up and walked to the window. Outside, cadets were practicing formation flying with their aircraft. There's something else, he said. The Kethvar government has filed a formal complaint about today's assessment. They claim that their cadets were humiliated by unfair tactics. Lisa felt a flash of anger, but she kept her voice calm. What kind of tactics did they expect? I didn't break any rules. No, you didn't. In fact, you followed Academy protocol perfectly. But some species have different ideas about honorable combat. He turned back to face her. The Academy administration is backing you completely. Your tactics were sound, your execution was flawless, and your results speak for themselves. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me yet. This incident is going to follow you for the rest of your career. Some people will always see you as the human who embarrassed the mighty Kethvar. Others will see you as a tactical genius who found a new way to win impossible fights. He sat back down at his desk, which brings me to your next assignment. You're being promoted to squad leader for the graduation exercises next month. You'll be in charge of a mixed unit of human and alien cadets. Lisa was surprised. Squad leader was usually reserved for the top student in each class. Sir, I'm honored, but there are other cadets with better grades and more experience. Grades don't matter in real combat, Commander Sullivan said. What matters is the ability to think clearly under pressure and use whatever advantages you have. You demonstrated both of those abilities today. He handed her a data pad with her new assignment details. Your squad will include some of the cadets who watched your assessment today. They've requested to work with you. Lisa looked at the list of names on the pad. Most of them were alien students from different species. They wanted to learn from her victory over the HFY. There's one more thing, Commander Sullivan added. The 4 HFY cadets have also requested to join your squad. Lisa looked up in surprise. Really? They said they want to learn how humans fight. Apparently losing to you taught them more than winning against other opponents ever did. Lisa smiled. Maybe today's assessment had been more successful than she had realized. Not only had she passed her test, but she had also shown other species that humans had their own strengths. I accept the assignment, she said. Good. Your first squad meeting is tomorrow at 800 hours. Don't be late. Lisa stood up to leave. Sir, can I ask you something? What is it? Do you really think human Shadowmane teams could work in real combat? Commander Sullivan smiled. Cadet, after watching you today, I think human Shadowmane teams could change the way wars are fought. Lisa left his office feeling both proud and nervous. She had wanted to prove that humans could hold their own against alien species. Now it seemed like she had done more than that. She had shown them a completely new way to think about combat. Storm was waiting for her outside the administration building. He looked up at her and made his soft questioning sound. We're squad leaders now, Lisa told him. Think you can handle the responsibility? Storm made a sound that was almost like laughter. He had been handling responsibility since the day they met. Now it was time to teach other cadets what they had learned together. 3 weeks had passed since the assessment, and Lisa's quarters had become busier than she liked. Every day, cadets came to ask questions about human tactics and Shadowmane partnerships. Some were genuinely curious. Others seemed to think there was some secret trick they could learn in a few minutes. Lisa sat at her small table, sipping her morning coffee while Storm dozed beside her chair. Outside her window, she could see members of her new squad practicing formation exercises on the academy's main field. They were getting better, but they still had a lot to learn. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. She opened the door to find Zexthal standing in the hallway. The big HFY looked uncomfortable, which was unusual for his species. May I come in? He asked. Lisa stepped aside to let him enter. Storm opened one eye to acknowledge their visitor, then went back to his nap. How are your ribs? Lisa asked. Healed, Zexthal said. He looked around her small room, taking in the simple furniture and lack of decorations. I wanted to thank you. Thank me? For what? For showing us that we were wrong about humans. He sat carefully in the chair across from her table. My whole life I was taught that strength and speed were the most important things in combat. I thought intelligence was just something weak species used to make excuses. Lisa refilled her coffee cup and offered one to Zexthal. He declined with a polite gesture. What changed your mind? She asked. The recording of our fight. I've watched it dozens of times now. Each time I see something new. Zexthal leaned forward. You weren't just reacting to what we did. You had already predicted our entire attack pattern before we even started moving. Storm helped with that. His senses are much better than human eyes and ears. But Storm was reacting to signals from you. Through your mental link, you were directing his movements based on what you thought we would do next. Zexthal shook his head in amazement. How did you know? Lisa thought about how to explain it. HFY are predictable because you're efficient. Your species developed on a world where direct attacks usually work best. You've been using the same hunting patterns for thousands of years. And humans? Humans developed on a world full of predators that were bigger and stronger than us. We had to learn to think differently or we would have gone extinct. Lisa took a sip of coffee. We learned to watch and wait and plan. We learned to use our environment and our tools and each other. The other HFY in my squad are struggling with this concept, Zexthal admitted. Morgan still thinks your victory was just luck. Kilnith wants to challenge you to a rematch without Storm. What about Veltris? He's been studying human military history. He says he's beginning to understand why your species has been so successful despite your physical limitations. Lisa nodded. Veltris was the smartest of the 4 HFY. If anyone could adapt to new ways of thinking, it would be him. There's something else, Zexthal said. The Academy has been getting messages from other military schools across the galaxy. They want to know more about human-alien partnerships. Some species are asking to send exchange students to learn from you. That's good news, isn't it? Maybe. But there are also protests from species that think humans are becoming too influential in galactic military affairs. They say your victory over us was just a publicity stunt to make humans look stronger than they really are. Lisa frowned. She had hoped that her demonstration would help humans earn respect from other species. Instead, it seemed to be creating new problems. Storm lifted his head and looked at her. Through their mental link, she felt his calm confidence. He didn't worry about politics or what other species thought. He just focused on what was important right now. What do you think? Lisa asked Zexthul. Am I stronger than I really am? The big alien was quiet for a long moment. I think you're exactly as strong as you need to be, he said finally. But your strength is different from ours. We measure strength by how much weight we can lift or how fast we can run. You measure it by how well you can solve problems and adapt to new situations. There was another knock on the door. Lisa opened it to find Alex Rivera and Dr. Carter standing in the hallway. Squad meeting in 10 minutes, Alex reminded her. Thought you might want to walk over together. Lisa grabbed her jacket and followed them out. Zexthul came with them and Storm padded along beside the group. How's the new squad working out? Dr. Carter asked as they walked across the academy grounds. Better than I expected, Lisa said. The alien cadets are starting to understand that humans fight differently, not worse. And the human cadets are learning that there's more than one way to be strong. They reached the training building where Lisa's squad was waiting. The group was an unusual mix. Along with the 4 Kethvar, there were 3 human cadets, 2 bird-like Avirians and 1 insectoid Thren. They all stood up when Lisa entered the room. Good morning, Lisa said. Today we're going to work on coordinated attacks. The scenario is a hostage rescue mission in an urban environment. One of the human cadets, a young man named Pete Jackson, raised his hand. Are we going to use the same tactics you used against the Kethvar? No, Lisa said. Those tactics worked in that situation because I knew my opponents and the environment. In a real mission, you have to adapt your strategy to whatever conditions you face. She activated the holographic display at the front of the room. It showed a 3-dimensional model of a city street with several buildings. The hostages are being held on the 3rd floor of this building, Lisa explained. The terrorists are armed with energy weapons and have posted guards at all the entrances. How would you approach this problem? Kilneth immediately spoke up. Direct assault. Hit them fast and hard before they can react. That might work, Lisa said. But what if the terrorists start killing hostages as soon as they see us coming? One of the Avirians, a female named Skysinger, flapped her wings thoughtfully. We could approach from above. My species can fly silently. Good idea. What about the rest of you who can't fly? The discussion continued for an hour, with each cadet contributing ideas based on their species' natural abilities. The Thren suggested using pheromone trails to confuse the terrorists. The human cadets talked about using technology to jam communications. The Kethvar wanted to use their strength to create diversions. Lisa listened to all their suggestions and helped them see how different approaches could work together. By the end of the session, they had developed a plan that used everyone's strengths. The key thing to remember, Lisa said as the meeting ended, is that every species has something valuable to contribute. Humans aren't better than other species and other species aren't better than humans. We're all just different. After the other cadets left, Storm and Lisa walked to their favorite spot on the academy grounds. It was a small hill overlooking the main training fields. Lisa liked to come here to think. Do you think we did the right thing? She asked Storm as they sat together on the grass. Storm made his soft rumbling sound and leaned against her. Through their mental link, she felt his contentment. He wasn't worried about the future or what other people thought. He was happy just to be with her. Lisa scratched behind his ears and looked out over the academy. In the distance, she could see cadets from dozens of different species training together. Some were working with human partners. Others were forming their own multi-species teams. Her victory over the Kethvar had started something bigger than she had expected. It wasn't just about proving that humans could fight. It was about showing that different species could work together in new ways. 3 months later, Lisa stood in the Academy's main auditorium wearing her new Defense Force uniform. The graduation ceremony was ending, and she had been selected as the top cadet in her class. But that wasn't what made her proud. What made her proud was seeing her squad mates receiving their own assignments. Zexthul had been chosen for the Defense Force's new Strategic Planning Division. Skysinger was joining an elite reconnaissance unit. Pete Jackson had been accepted into the Advanced Tactics School. All of them had learned to think differently about combat and cooperation. They would carry those lessons with them to their new assignments and teach them to others. Commander Sullivan approached her after the ceremony. "Congratulations, Lieutenant Morgan. Your first assignment is with the 12th Special Operations Unit. You'll be leading human-alien partnership teams on deep reconnaissance missions." Lisa saluted. "Thank you, sir. I'm ready." "I know you are, but there's one more thing." He handed her a data pad. "The Galactic Defense Council has approved a new training program based on your methods. They want you to help develop the curriculum." Lisa looked at the pad in surprise. The program was called Integrated Species Combat Training. It would teach cadets from all species to work together using their natural strengths. "The galaxy is changing," Commander Sullivan said. "Species that have been enemies for centuries are starting to realize they're stronger when they work together." Your little coffee break demonstration started.